and I will be talking to you on COVID infection control basics. We know coronavirus disease 2019, which is abbreviated as COVID-19, is caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, SARS CoV-2, which is a novel coronavirus. The pathogen causing COVID-19 is a novel coronavirus, which is named as severe acute respiratory syndrome um, uh, coronavirus 2. And this is a large group of highly diverse enveloped positive sense and single-stranded RNA virus. When we think about this disease for this 21st century, the disease first reported in December 2019 from Wuhan, Hubei province of People's Republic of China, and has since spread throughout the world. The World Health Organization declared it as a global pandemic on March 11, 2020. The nature of the virus and the disease, when we think about this, again, we have seen that every century faced with coronavirus infections. SARS coronavirus first was in 19th century, 20th century, MERS was there, and in 21st century we have SARS coronavirus 2. So coronavirus, when we think about, we get sequenced with genetic mutation and things. These viruses are coming back again with more virulent strains. And coronavirus, SARS coronavirus, the affected host is human. The intermediate or potential reservoir host is not the intermediate, the potential reservoir host is bat. And the disease is called SARS, and the cell receptor which is affected is ACE2. When we think about Middle East respiratory syndrome coronavirus, affected host is again humans, and intermediate host is the camels, and the potential reservoir is bat. And MERS affect the cell receptor is DPP4, that is peptidase 4. And SARS-CoV-2, again affected host is human. Though there is no intermediate host reported, but potential reservoir is considered to be bat itself. But there is no clinical studies to suggest that bat hold this as a reservoir. COVID-19 is the disease, and here also the ACE2 is the cell receptor. When you think about epidemiology, transmission of infectious disease must rely on three conditions: sources of infection, routes of transmission, and susceptible host. SARS and MERS are defined as zoonotic disease and transmitted by intermediate host. But COVID or SARS coronavirus 2 is not declared to have an intermediate host so far. Epidemiological characteristics of course, SARS-CoV, MERS, coronavirus, and SARS coronavirus 2. When we think about this, people talk about estimated R0. When we say R0, R is the average or expected number of people that can affect a person, that an infected person affect or transmit the disease to another person. So R0, estimated R0 in SARS-CoV coronavirus is 2 to 5 days, but in MERS it is less than 1 day, and SARS coronavirus 2 or CoV-2 is 2.68 with a confidence interval of 95%. Then host of the virus, the natural host of SARS coronavirus is Chinese horseshoe bats. Intermediate host is masked palm civet, or and the terminal host is human beings. In MERS also, it is natural host is bats, intermediate host is camels, and the terminal host is human beings. And in SARS coronavirus 2, the natural host is bat, Intermediate host is pangolins, and the terminal host is human beings. So, but this is not clearly proved, but human beings are getting this disease. Then virus transmission mode is person-to-person transmission through droplets, opportunistic airborne transmission, nosocomial transmission, sporadic zoonotic transmission, aerosol transmission, and fecal oral transmission are seen in SARS coronavirus. And MERS, again, respiratory transmission, zoonotic transmission, nosocomial transmission through aerosols, and limited human-to-human transmission. When we think about SARS coronavirus 2 or CoV-2, person-to-person transmission through respiratory droplets, contact and fomites, zoonotic transmission, nosocomial transmission, fecal oral transmission, aerosol transmission is highly possible. So what we have to think, every route is open here in SARS coronavirus 2. So COVID-19 has more potent than other coronavirus infections. The median incubation period is 4.6 days with 95% confidence interval in SARS coronavirus. MERS, it is 5.2 days. And in SARS coronavirus 2, it is 6.4 days. Then SARS-CoV-2 was transmitted through respiratory aspirates, droplets, contacts, aerosol transmission. A lot of respiratory treatments for critically ill patients are deemed as high-risk factors for nosocomial transmission. Pre-symptomatic transmission occurred through familial and social gatherings. This itself will tell us what all precautions we have to take in order to prevent the transmission of this disease. Then basic infection control precautions have to be followed. That means the first one is standard precautions. We all know that standard precautions are very important in hospital settings. And we have to presume that all the patients or all the contacts which we have in the hospital are potentially infectious. In that way, standard precautions are very important. Apply standard precautions according to risk assessment for all patients at all times. Standard precautions include hand hygiene and use of personal protective equipment or PPE. Follow appropriate patient placement, prevention of needle stick injury, safe waste management, cleaning and disinfection of equipment and environment are very essential. Then best practices for safely managing healthcare waste. Transmission-based precautions are also important for suspected and confirmed COVID-19 patients. Contact and droplet or airborne precautions should be applied. Then contact precautions can be done with using gloves and disposable gown. Droplet precautions can be taken with the use of large droplet prevention of large droplet transmission of respiratory virus through mask. Then transmission-based precautions, what we have to use are use a medical mask if working within 1 meter of the patient. Carefully practice hand hygiene using alcohol-based hand rub. Use either disposable or dedicated equipment. Use the proper or appropriate PPE, including gloves, long-sleeved gowns, eye protection, and fit-tested particulate respirators. Avoid presence of unnecessary persons or individuals. Then hand hygiene. Healthcare professionals should perform hand hygiene before and after all patient contact. Hand hygiene after removing PP is particularly important to remove pathogens. Perform hand hygiene by using alcohol-based hand sanitizer with 60 to 95% alcohol. Hand hygiene supplies are readily available to all persons in every care location. But we have seen that there are shortage of these supplies sometimes. But if you use soap and water, wash the hands for 20 seconds. This will help us to prevent infection transmission through hand. Then respiratory or face mask. Put on an N95 respirator or face mask before entry into the patient room or care area. Discard disposable respirators and face masks after exiting the patient's room. If reusable respirators are used, they must be cleaned and disinfected according to the equipment or according to the type of mask used. Then eye protection. Put on eye protection upon entry to the patient room or care area. Ensure that eye protection is compatible with the respirator. Otherwise, it will be misfitting and producing injury to the face, and it may not hold the use of it. Then remove eye protection after leaving the patient room. Reusable eye protection must be cleaned and disinfected according to manufacturer's reprocessing. Otherwise, it may not be good to keep it like that. Then gloves. Put on clean, non-sterile gloves upon entry into the patient room or care area. We need not have a sterile gloves. We need a clean gloves. Change gloves if they become torn or heavily contaminated. Remove and discard gloves before leaving the patient room. Then gowns. Put on a clean isolation gown upon entry into the patient room or area. Remove and discard the gown in a dedicated container. We should not keep here and there the disposable gowns. Recently, this has happened in some of the places, and it was a big problem for transmitting the disease. Disposable gowns should be discarded after the use. Cloth gowns should be laundered after each use. Standard infection control precautions must be adhered to at all times. Perform hand hygiene before and after leaving the room. Then wear all appropriate personal protective equipment as directed in isolation when patient is in isolation or when you are attending a patient in isolation. Remember this, it is very, very important. Advise patient for good respiratory hygiene. So you should have adequate amount of tissues to give to the patient. Sometimes patient may be sneezing without covering the face and nostrils and mouth. So there may be chance of transmitting or sending the droplets to others. So provide tissues to patients or the relatives or people who are sneezing and instruct them to follow good respiratory hygiene. All body fluids, spillage, waste, and soiled linen to be dealt with immediately and removed from the room. Place all used sharps into an approved sharps bin. Then again, in isolation, the patients should be encouraged to use their own ensuite facility only during the period of isolation. Afterwards, they should not be allowed, and only patients in the isolation should be there, confined to that room. Visits to other departments are restricted, strictly restricted. Keep the bedroom door closed at all times. This will keep the droplets inside itself and it may not transmit out. Then ensure PPE is always available for use. Bed linen should be changed daily as a minimum. If possible, twice a day. If at least once in a day, the bed linen should be changed. Room must be cleaned at least daily. In big corporate hospitals, I have seen that every 4 hours, people are cleaning the bedrooms or patient area. And this may not be practical always in a government setup where people are not there, adequate supplies are not there. All those things are there. But still, nurses can assure that it is cleaned at least daily. And cleaning and disinfection, there are certain general guidelines. That is, increase the frequency of cleaning and disinfecting. Then it helps remove bacteria and viruses, including novel coronavirus. Wash hands often with soap and warm water for at least 20 seconds. Sometimes warm water may not be available. Tap water also can be used, but wash it for 20 seconds. If not available, if water and soap is not available, use a hand rub, that is a sanitizer that contains at least 60% alcohol. Then safety guidelines during cleaning and disinfection. how when you are cleaning something or you allow somebody or your assistant to clean, see that they wear disposable gloves when cleaning and disinfecting. Wear eye protection when there is a potential for splash. Gowns or aprons are recommended to protect personal clothing. Store chemicals in labeled closed containers. Keep them in a secure area away from children and food. Then clean surfaces and objects that are visibly soiled first step in disinfection process. That nobody should forget. So wherever you use clean surfaces and objects that are visibly soiled, then clean and disinfect surfaces as soon as possible in areas where a person with respiratory symptom was present. Then use an EPA, Environment Protection Agent, registered disinfectant for use against novel coronavirus. Follow manufacturers' instructions for safe and effective use of all cleaning and disinfection products. We have to always see that we are using a good disinfectant. That is why people say that EPA registered disinfectant should be used in hospital settings so that it will be good for, there is quality maintained for it. The following products are effective for disinfection of hard and non-porous surfaces. We can use a 10% diluted bleach solution, an alcohol solution with at least 70% alcohol, or an EPA registered disinfectant for use against COVID-19. So we can prepare 10% bleach solution by mixing 5 tablespoons of bleach per gallon of water. After application, allow 2 minutes of contact time before wiping or allow to air dry. This is very important. Once you use 10% diluted bleach solution on a surface or an equipment or wherever, allow at least 2 minutes for it to act on. Otherwise, you just leave it and let the air and put on the fan and see that the air will dry it off, so that we can assure the safety of the area or the equipment. Then we can also prepare sodium hypochlorite solution by us. This can be done by dissolving salt in softened water. We should not use hard water, then the salt will not dissolve. We have to make a concentrated brine solution. Brine solution, when we say it is the highest concentration of the solution, then you electrolyze that solution, you will get hypochlorite solution formed in the water. This solution contains 150 gram of active chlorine per liter. Then again, another process is by adding chlorine gas to caustic soda, that is sodium hydroxide. If you take sodium hydroxide and add chlorine gas, you will get sodium hypochlorite, water, and salt. Salt is sodium chloride. Then this sodium hypochlorite also can be used for disinfecting surfaces and non-porous areas. Then personal infection prevention is very important, and we have to follow certain steps in this. And most of the hospitals and medical colleges are now converted into COVID hospitals. But some of the corporate hospitals or other hospitals where other patients are also treated. So it is better to have a separate area for people coming with fever or suspected cases of COVID-19. So we have to have ensured triage, early recognition, and source of control. So to facilitate the early identification of cases of suspected novel coronavirus infection, healthcare facilities should have certain things. Encourage healthcare workers to have a high level of clinical suspicion, especially doctors and nurses who are coming in contact with the patients. They should have high awareness of the signs and symptoms of novel coronavirus. So if somebody comes with a throat pain, somebody comes with a high fever, tired feeling and all, you have to suspect that every possible case is a case of coronavirus infection or COVID-19. And so everybody should be looked into with a suspicion that this may have a chance of getting COVID-19. So establish a well-equipped triage station at the entrance of healthcare facility supported by trained staff. The institute use of screening questionnaires according to the updated case definition of COVID-19. Then post signs in public areas remaining symptomatic patients to alert healthcare workers. We all learn about novel coronavirus now, COVID-19. Everybody is all over the world. The people are speaking about coronavirus and COVID-19. Still, we may miss some symptoms and we may get into trouble. So everybody, wherever possible, signs or symptoms of coronavirus may be posted so that everybody will see. Not only the public, healthcare workers also will be able to see that these are the signs and symptoms and I must be careful, so that personal infection prevention is possible with this. Then everybody should be instructed to follow standard precautions for all patients, whether it is a corona case or no. Everybody should follow standard precautions. When we had the threat of HIV in a hospital, we started practicing standard precautions. Everybody knows about it, but still sometimes when the acute case scenarios goes off, people will forget about it. So remember, it is very important to protect us, standard precautions. So hand and respiratory hygiene must be followed. Use appropriate PPE, safe waste management, then proper linens, environmental cleaning and sterilization of patient care equipment are very, very important. And every healthcare worker should follow the 5 moments of for hand hygiene prescribed by WHO, which is, you know about it, before touching a patient, before clean or aseptic procedures, after body fluid exposure or risk, then after touching a patient, after touching the surroundings of the patient. So 2 things are before and 3 things are after the patient. So remember that, and we must be careful about this. Then implementing personal infection prevention, administrative people also need to think about it, and the CEOs and the directors, medical superintendent, nursing superintendent, and nurse managers, deputy managers, everybody should be careful in implementing administrative controls. So first of all, the administrative people should establish a sustainable IPC infrastructure and activities, educate patients and caregivers, developing policies on the early recognition of acute respiratory infection potentially caused by COVID-19, and ensure or novel coronavirus, ensuring access to prompt laboratory testing for identification of the etiological agent, preventing overcrowding, especially in the emergency department, providing dedicated waiting areas for symptomatic patients, appropriately isolating hospitalized patients. Then other provision of adequate training for healthcare workers, ensuring an adequate patient to staff ratio, establishing a surveillance process for acute respiratory infections, ensuring that healthcare workers and the public understand the importance of promptly seeking medical care, monitoring healthcare workers' compliance with standard precautions. This is very, very important. The last one, which I just mentioned, monitoring healthcare workers' compliance with standard precautions. We have seen in Kerala that our medical people, medical practitioners, and healthcare workers, they have a feeling, some of them have a feeling that they may not get COVID-19. And those who were kept in isolation or quarantine also started working here and there, though they are very well aware of such things, but still they were not complying to the precautionary measures. So this need to be, we have to reinforce the knowledge about COVID-19 to everyone. And I hope you got what I have told. Thank you very much.